Hello, I'm Christina Brown, and this is Our Take on Arise TV. And joining me today as my guest co-host is Eunice Omole. She is a finance and real estate expert, but also a branding specialist and contributing writer for online lifestyle magazine Apprentice Africa. She was also the first runner-up in Apprentice Africa. Well, congratulations for making it so far. What do you think happened, though?
Oh, what happened? Well, I came in second place to Isaac, who ultimately won the show. He's in Ghana. It was a really great run. I really had a great opportunity to meet some amazing people across Africa and the diaspora. And so what happened? I just didn't win ultimately, but I felt like I took so much away from that experience. It was just amazing.
And Apprentice here in the U.S. has a huge following. What was it like doing the Apprentice Africa version?
Yeah, the first episode was, it was an eye-opener having to do so many tasks in Lagos. It was the exact same format as the same Apprentice here in the U.S., so it was just fun.
Minus Donald Trump.
Minus Donald Trump.
And the hair.
But there were plenty of pseudo Donald Trumps in Lagos, so.
And you are originally from Nigeria. Your family's originally
My family's originally from Nigeria. I was born and raised in D.C., so yeah, my parents immigrated here 30 years ago.
With the exposure that came with Apprentice Africa, what have you been able to do with that since?
Well, it really provided me a great opportunity and platform to get into media and broadcast, specifically with Apprentice Africa magazine. Now that I moved back here in New York, I have the opportunity now as a fashion editor to contribute stories really about designers and stylists who are doing amazing things in the industry, specifically in diaspora. So doing that along with other platforms like Dress for Success, where I volunteer as a speaker, just really talking about the organization and having young ladies understand how to dress to impress, how to act during an interview, and how to, really put their best foot forward during their employment.
And since you have spent so much time in the corporate sector working in finance and real estate, you know all too well how much importance is put on presentation.
Absolutely. I can't even emphasize that enough. Funny enough, last night we had a seminar with some of the young ladies, and we just kept repeating over and over again, really, you don't have a second chance at a first impression. Like, as soon as you step out the door, as soon as you sit down in that interview chair, it's game on. So they found it pretty valuable to hear some of the things that we had to say, and it's provided a really great platform for me to be supportive and provide other people with really knowledge as far as on how to dress for success.
Well, it is game on for you as well,
yes.
Eunice. I'm so grateful that you're joining me as my guest co-host today. We certainly have a lot going on in today's show.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Well, topping today's Daily Take headlines right now, our continuing coverage of the killing of Trayvon Martin, the trial of George Zimmerman. Zimmerman's fate will be determined by women. The 6 main jurors in the second-degree murder trial of Hispanic watchman George Zimmerman are not only all women, but none are black. And there's only one possible Hispanic individual. Now, to discuss the latest development with this case is Debbie Hines, who was a prosecutor and now a trial attorney. She is based in Washington, D.C. Debbie, you joined us on Monday on our debut show of Our Take. And on Monday, you really called it. You said that this case, despite the fact that the defendant is a man, the victim is a man, you said that this case was going to center on women. Were you, though, expecting an all-female jury?
It is so incredible that it's an all-female jury. I mean, you never get an all same-sex jury, regardless of what type of case it is. So I'm incredibly surprised. I mean, I did think that it would at least be 4 women, possibly 5 women, but to have an all-women jury, oh my God, it's just incredible. But the devil is in the details, and the details are not as what I wanted them to be.
And when you talk about the devil is in the details, explain that a little bit further.
Well, what I was hoping is that they would get a jury of women that would have children, sons, daughters that were around the same age as Trayvon Martin, within that age group, so that they would have more of a sense of, on a personal level, what it's like, what Sabrina Fulton and Trayvon's father are feeling. But what we really have are what appears to be very conservative jurors. So there's 2 jurors that are on the panel, that are on the actual jury, for which the prosecution did strike, but they didn't have a valid reason for striking them, and so they were actually put on the jury, meaning they didn't have a reason that was race-based neutral. What you have to be able to say is, I didn't just strike them because they were a white woman and there's some black people coming up down the line. And so those two are actually on the jury. There's one woman who does have a son or a child that's at least the age of Trayvon Martin. But the thing I don't like about her is that she goes on to say, as if it was Trayvon's fault, that she tells her children bad things can happen if you go out at night. So she doesn't sound like she's so good.
And Debbie, we understand that when it comes to the community there in Seminole County, Florida, it is comprised of only 11% black, 11% African American. The absence of an African American, not only among the 6 jurors, but also the 4 alternates, that doesn't sound on the surface that that would bode well for the prosecution.
Well, you know, you have to also put it in the context of the reality of Seminole County, because this is a conservative county. Yes, there are Democrats there, but it's primarily a Republican county. And so the blacks that were coming up on the jury, actually some of them I would have stricken. I mean, there is one of the jurors, he didn't make it, he was a black man, but to give you an example, he just spoke out and said he doesn't like Al Sharpton, nor does he like Jesse Jackson. Is that someone you really want on the jury, although he is a black man? And that's what I mean by the devil is in the details. You have to go through the details and not just say, I want a black person, a black man, or a black woman on the jury, because in Seminole County, everyone is thinking, you know, from areas up here, New York, Washington, urban cities, that we're going to get a black person that's like a black person living in a more urban, major metropolitan area. We're not going to get Al Sharpton down there on the jury. We're more likely to get a Herman Cain type one.
So, Debbie, I mean, I feel like just looking at the case and how it's been developing so far, I feel like this case has just been really laced so much with race overtones since the very beginning. And now we have this other layer of gender roles. So as far as the jury being all female, I'm just kind of curious to know, why was the prosecution, or excuse me, why was the defense so, it almost appeared excited that they were all women? And as a woman, I mean, you know, just correct me if I'm wrong, but typically women tend to be more emotional than men. So I'm just kind of surprised to see that the defense would find, you know, as if, okay, it's going to only take 4 weeks to, you know, really wrap this up, almost as if it's going to be leaning towards George Zimmerman. I think my question at this point really is, for women looking out into the courtroom, seeing both Trayvon's parents out there, wouldn't that just kind of strike an emotional chord and want to side with that, you know, side with that family and, you know, pretty much bring justice for Trayvon?
Well, I think, like I said, I think it depends on the details that are available. And I'm not so sure that this makeup of this all-female, all-women jury is going to actually vote that way. Actually, I actually think that the woman who is the Hispanic juror, who was originally from Chicago, she was in Chicago, living in Chicago at the time of the shooting, she might be the most favorable one for the prosecution. I think as the jury shapes up now, I mean, I see, looking at it, there are 3 jurors that I would not have wanted out of the 6 on the jury. The woman who's originally from Iowa, who was in Iowa at the time, which is also a conservative area, and the 2 jurors that the prosecution did strike, but ultimately ended up on the jury. So, yeah, I think the defense is quite pleased with this jury, unfortunately. And it's not about women, again, it's about the details of these women on this particular jury.
All right, Debbie Hines joining us live from Washington, D.C. with quite a bit of insight and, might I also add, fortune-telling, given what you had already told us on Monday. We will continue to come back to you for additional insight as this case develops. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Meanwhile, in other news, Syrian rebels have announced their receipt of a new cache of weapons. Earlier this week, following a U.S. announcement that the Syrian government had deployed chemical weapons, Obama said the U.S. would start sending military aid to the rebels. However, this recent announcement by Syrian rebels claiming that they have indeed received weapons does not mean that that weapon cash was supplied by the U.S. Moving on to Brazil, where Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff is staging an emergency cabinet meeting of her officials today to address the protests in her country that have now claimed the life of one teenager and led to the hospitalization of several people. The demonstrations have now resulted in looting. You can see the images there. Fires and damage to a building facade, including a foreign ministry building in Brasilia. The estimates now indicate that the crowds are reaching 1 million. And Eunice, they have really grown fast. I mean, this was 250,000 just a matter of days ago.
It's almost reminiscent of all the protests that really started in Tunisia, and then it just kind of spiraled into Egypt. And it actually brings, it's very reminiscent of what happened in Nigeria about a year or so ago, where the government basically decided to increase the fuel for about maybe double the price, where ordinary Nigerians are, working off less than $1 a day. So of course there were, massive protests, enough is enough, but at the end of the day, it wasn't as much as they would have wanted to increase it, but they increased it. But I mean, it's really sad and really disappointing that the government is so out of touch with the ordinary man that they're working. I mean, for them, Brazil, to be able to, increase bus fare hikes,
and that is where this originally began. It began with an increase on the bus fare hike. And like you said, you bring up Nigeria, and this is a conversation that we were having earlier. We're seeing more and more, not only the demonstrations and protests, but the pushback by the little people, right? The middle class, having to shoulder the burden of these financial discrepancies that the government is trying to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a point where, it's just enough. And we have to be able to, just really stand up and, dig our heels and really start to ask what we want. And
or
really,
in some cases, demand it.
Demand it. I mean, and if it involves days and days of protest, then so be it. And so now I'm glad the government has decided to put together an emergency cabinet meeting and really just resolve the issue as quickly as possible. I mean, these people, they're out there and they're going to be out there for a very long time until they get exactly what they want.
Well, let's hope we certainly do see movement in a positive way. Speaking of positivity, we have, well, I guess the parents would consider this a positive move. Go north, yes. Northwest, that is. I am, of course, talking about Kanye West and Kim Kardashian's name of their new child. They will always, no pun intended, have an eye to the north. I'm serious, Eunice. Stop looking at me like that. They named their child North.
Yeah, I just want to be clear. I'm like, okay, I know you kept alluding to going north and everything, but I'm just like, I'm still waiting for the name.
That is
and
the
so
name.
The baby's name, a girl, North
West. Northwest. That is the name of Kanye West and Kim Kardashian's new little girl. Now, think about it. If they had kept with the
middle name still Donna? So North Donna West?
If they had kept
what are we doing? Like, Northwest? No, really, do you know where it originated?
Gwyneth Paltrow named her daughter Apple. Well, I'm just saying, but I do want to raise this point, and Debbie Mitchell.
What does that mean?
Debbie Mitchell, the executive producer, brought this up. Yes, Debbie, I'm giving you all the credit. If you think about it, though, if they had kept with the K's, which we've seen with the Kardashians, Kim, Khloe, Kourtney, Kenner.
Yeah.
Is it Kenner?
Jenner.
Okay,
it doesn't matter.
Anyway, it could have been Key West.
Oh, wonderful.
That's good, right?
Cute, right? See, that I would have. I'm okay with that.
I think I would have actually dug.
Cute.
Yeah. I think I would have dug Key West a little bit more than Northwest. I'm not sure.
For me, a name is so powerful. I mean, you just think about it. North.
North, yeah.
North,
they're going north. Well, we're not going anywhere, though. Keep it right here. We are discussing a lot of things on the show today, including our money. We have been dedicating all week long talking about money, money, money. And so it's time now for my shameless plug. I want to hear from you on Facebook and on Twitter. Join the conversation at #OurTakeAriseTV. And remember to leave your comments on our Facebook page, Our Take on Arise TV. Tell us what you think of what can be done to keep more money in your pocket and less money out at the store shopping. We'll be right back.